someone that couldn't make it emailed me a question that I was going to add in here.
Love it.
So I will just ask that one from like off to the side.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Was just literally about like if they wanted to work with Kinstead, how they would reach out, and then just a little bit of clarification on like fees or minimums to work with Kinstead and work with us and how it all like goes together. Okay. And then this is it.
Okay, great.
All right, do you want to start with that, Crystal?
The Kinstead question,
Yeah.
Alex?
Both of
We
you.
usually do kind of a joint meeting with somebody like Alex at Kinstead. There's many wealth counselors, but we do like to work with Alex a lot. She's great, and she has a lot of patience with all of us. So we do a meeting together, and we establish what the goal is for the money, what's the need, and we establish a target, and we talk about how the different pools work and what an investment plan with Kinstead would look like. So how would a typical person that age with those goals be allocated, and how the pools are managed. So it's really cool because Kinstead actually sits down and makes the decisions about the pools as a council. So it doesn't really matter who you're working with there. No one's pulling the trigger inside of a pool independently of someone else. So it's a lot different in that perspective. And then if they want to proceed with Kinstead, there's a meeting with Alex to do their investment policy statement, which is basically saying how your money is going to be invested for you, and Kinstead cannot deviate from that. They're actually a legal fiduciary. So they can't say, oh, we thought you should be more aggressive, so we just secretly snuck it in there.
We're legally bound to do it.
Yeah, they're legally bound to do it. And then there's regular reviews and meetings. Sometimes we have 4 meetings a year, sometimes we have 1 meeting a year. It's a minimum of 1 a year because of the way that Kinstead is governed. And I think that should be mandatory for advisors, period. But it's not always feasible sometimes for things like just updating your plan, but I think it should be important. And then the fee is, I think, 1.6 usually for like under $1 million.
Yep.
And it is split. They are generous and they split that with us. And then we tell you exactly what it costs you, and we give you your plan to go with your investments. And then we help you sit at the same side of the table as you with Kinstead. So if we don't like what they're doing, sorry, we usually do. Yeah. We can be like, okay, we need to pivot, right? Or if something changes for that person.
Just one thing I want to add is the first meeting would be very much introduction. So it's not committal. It's not like you're signing away your life. So it would just be informational. I went through what we do in about 2 to 3 minutes today. So typically I talk for an hour, and you'll probably be sick of hearing me talk by the end, but that's more of how it goes. And then like Crystal mentioned, second meeting is more in depth into the weeds of the portfolio. So if anyone's interested, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to Crystal and we can get it set up.
Great. All right, so this question is for Sam. What is the difference between private wealth versus holistic wealth per your slide?
Yeah, per my slide. I think these two just illustrated it. And so private wealth, like on its own, is without the planning piece. And so you want to make sure, and I really want to drive home how valuable private wealth can be. And so Alex touched on a few really important things. When you get to that level of being able to access their minimums, you get access to things that the average person can't. And that is a beautiful thing, because it's true. The more you have, the more you can make. And so that's incredibly powerful. And where the synergy comes in is between that beautiful relationship then between private wealth and the plan. And so again, that's why I use the example of IG. They kind of have some private pools that you can do, and it's all through that one advisor though. It's not, and that advisor has their mutual funds license. They could be IROC licensed, but nowhere near the level that these guys are. And so that's why it's really important, whether we're talking about private wealth or talking about a bank or an investment guy, that you understand the level of depth they do or do not have, the level of advice you will or will not get, and just making sure that no matter what, your plan is front and center. Hopefully. Do you think that?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it has to be about you. You should be the center, right? And everything should come out of what you want.
Yes.
And I love sitting down with people just on the Kinstead piece and being like, our goal was 8% and here you are, or your goal was this and here you are, because we can keep pace with your plan, and actually we're measuring if we're hitting the targets that you need, so that 20 and 30 years down the road, which can be so hard to imagine. A lot of people don't start because it seems so far away, that they know like, oh man, I just need to keep doing these behaviors and keep this as a habit so that I can get all the way there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think some of these questions are for Sam because the question period came right after your presentation. So is the percentage you save, and Crystal might be able to chime in on this as well, is the percentage you save and invest different in various income brackets?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I would say it's personal to the individual, and it comes down to values. Because there's the right answer of how much you should be saving, so to speak, but there's the intangibles that need to be considered, like your life circumstances. Do you have a partner? How many kids do you have? Are there health concerns? There's so many different variables to it. And sometimes we do see individuals, they could be making, say, 3 times as much as somebody else, but saving or investing half. But there's usually reasons for it. What those reasons are important to know, but it just goes back to the fact there's not a one size fits all, and you need to make sure that you're considering all variables.
And sometimes you may have to save more because you guys know more money, more problems, right? Like your expenses go up when you make more money. And so with people that we do plans with, if they have high expenses right now, we actually give them higher expenses in retirement because they live a certain lifestyle that they are very much used to.
Yeah.
So you may have to save more just to keep up if you want to keep up with your lifestyle. But again, it's individual. You may be, no, I want to move to a country where cost of living is super cheap and I'm happy with that. Yeah, that could be an option.
And just one more quick thing to add to that. The best way to answer that is to know what your retirement number is. Which talks to the point of how much are you spending? Because it's not just how much you're making, it's how much do you want to be spending in retirement. That's what we need to know. Because maybe you want to spend the same amount of somebody who is earning like $200,000 and you're currently earning 80. It's not to say you can't save for that amount, but you probably, most likely, guaranteed will have to make other sacrifices to get to that level. If that's just another example.
What should an everyday DIY investor expect to pay per year for investment advice? I think we had that percentage. I don't know if,
Percentage-wise or fee-wise?
let's do fee-wise. Yeah, I think that's what the question, intended to ask.
I know we offer like hourly, and we offer a plan, flat fee plan, so to Sam. So you can find a person who will do it for $2,000, $3,000 a year. If it's fairly straightforward, no corporate involvement, but yeah, you can pay a flat fee plan. We do have some people at the $10,000 a year level, but there's complications with corporations, and we don't manage their money. Yeah, is that about right?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yep. I'd say 2,000's a little low, but
I know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to say it, but it is a thing.
which is hard to hear sometimes. And I encourage you just to be open to that conversation, because I think being able to offer a plan for a fee is actually a really special thing, because it is unbiased and transparent as completely possible. And don't be fooled. You're paying one way or another. So like I said, it all goes back to the value of advice, and just know how you're paying and what you're paying for. But to specifically answer, I think 2,000's a little low, but I would say anywhere 2,500 and up is not unreasonable. And Crystal spoke to this. It takes at least 10 hours to do a plan. And that's a base plan. So each level of complexity that you have, every single update from there on, just adds a layer. But it's worth it.
It is.
Do you recommend real estate as being diversification?
Like, oh, okay, that's complicated.
Like your own house?
Is it?
Or
Maybe you should answer this, Alex.
Investing in
I don't
real
know.
estate, would you consider it diversified? Yeah.
not like, I wouldn't consider your house as like part of your investment portfolio and calling that diversification. But having rental properties, sure, that could be considered. But I mean, are they diversified like geographically? Are they in different neighborhoods? Are they exposed to different things? Like,
Is it residential?
that's a very layered
commercial?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it part? Yeah. Commercial, industrial.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we did this
residential.
last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
I just hit the TV.
Yeah,
like
and I
it was a
think,
touch
you know,
screen.
Sam actually went through a process where they were looking at a home close to her family, and they bought this home for, what was it, millions? It was a long time ago, so maybe not millions, but at one point it was up to millions.
At one point, it was worth $2 million in 2008.
And so she went to go look at it, and the foundation of the building's totally cracked and could collapse on itself. Yeah. So they invested in their home. How can you predict that this is going to happen?
You just never know what's going to happen. It's currently listed for $860,000, and it was worth $2 million in 2008. And we were told it would need at least $100,000 to $150,000 of repairs if we were lucky. And that's somebody's retirement plan. They are literally not in that house right now. They have vacated the house due to health, and they are actually desperate for the cash out of that house, because I happen to know the individuals because it's they live 2 doors down from family, so I know the circumstance. But just to the point, your house is not part of your financial plan, and it is also not something you can guarantee for retirement. But real estate can be a piece of diversification, and I think it's arguably a very important piece we can't ignore. It's just how are you diversifying?
Yes, and it has worked for people, absolutely. But yeah, it should not be counted on.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
How long are we going?
Plan is 9 o'clock. You got my phone, so you know what time it is.
Well, we started at 9,
Okay.
so
No,
we're good.
Yeah, how do people feel? Do they want to do more, or are you guys happy to call it here?
How many more questions do we have?
There's 1, 2, 3.
Okay, why don't we just really rapid fire?
Okay, what are your thoughts on percentage do you allocate to dividend stocks?
Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Depends on your age, depends on a lot of
And that's not
different
being like
factors.
cryptic. It's like literally, and like we can easily, like if you tell us your age and you tell us your risk and you tell us all these things, yeah, it's an easy answer, but it's not a one-size-fits-all.
The difference between mutual funds and segregated funds. I think Crystal summed it up really well, that it's kind of like a mutual fund with an insurance blanket around it, right?
Yeah, it's got the guarantees on maturity and death, and it has the ability to bypass probate when it's a segregated fund.
Creditor
When it's a mutual
protection.
fund, it doesn't do that. And even when they're RSPs, I've seen them actually struggle to move it from husband to wife in a mutual fund situation. It's just a lot quicker when it comes to estate planning. The fee can be a bit higher in a segregated fund, but they're very close these days, actually, when you actually look fund to fund. So
Creditor
they're
protection,
very
I would say,
similar.
is a big one too.
That can be a big one,
Creditor
especially for like
protection,
certain professions or certain, like honestly, in my own personal situation, some of you know what that is. I do a lot of work on divorce, if that gives you a hint. I do segregated funds for me, and people in my industry are like, well, you're so young. What are you doing? And I'm not that young, I know. But I want to be. And I do seg funds because I just don't really feel like having any issue for anyone left behind if something happens to me with my ex. That money is for a very specific purpose and a very specific person who is not him. And he will never know about it. And that's what I love about it for me.
2 additional layers, I'll be really quick on this. Again, the ex-banker and ex-manager at the bank. 1, the amount of complexities and red tape when somebody passes at the bank, it's not easy for you to get access to funds. So that's really important for you to understand. It's just the red tape. It's really difficult to work around. So that's where that really comes into play. And then the second piece, again, I started at the bank with my career. I drank that Kool-Aid, man. Like, I can't even tell you. When I first met Crystal, actually, like, I was like, Crystal, like, seg funds are bad. Like, they're so expensive. Like, that's what I was taught. And I had my mutual funds license, my ETF, I had financial like all of this.
You even had a life insurance license.
I had my life insurance license.
Which is required for a
So
segregated.
again, just an example of how the noise can get to you, and it's really important to understand the transparency, and it's easy to end up on one side of the conversation.
Love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think this one went not to the mutual fund versus segregated funds, but the question before, what type of accounts, TFSA, RSPs, or non-registered account, would you buy a USA dividend stock? Technically all of them. You can.
They can be appropriate in all of them, depending on your situation, your goal, your age, your income now, your projected income later, how much pension you're eligible for, either with work or CPP.
A U.S. dividend, was it a stock or what was it?
Stock,
ETF?
yep.
Anyways, a U.S. dividend fund is a car. And that car, no matter what, doesn't matter what you drive, you can go park that in any garage. Think of it that way. That does not have any restriction.
I think that's a good way to put it. That is the end of the questions, unless there's any more last burning questions anybody may have.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for staying with us
Thank
tonight.
you.
And I hope that the traffic is way better on the way out.